but we still feel like those little underdogs that have to fight to get a spot. And now it's funny because a lot of people who are coming out now are like telling us how they grew up listening to our band, and it just feels so bizarre because I feel like I'm still that young band, but clearly, look at these. I'm not the young band anymore.
Dude, I'm right there with you. Don't you worry.
I know,
That's all good.
crazy.
That's all good. Hey guys, James Wilson-Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's the latest about video calls. We've been chatting to everybody from the comfort of home, and I'm delighted to say from Simple Plan, Pierre is on the line. How are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Very, very nice to see you. And it's an exciting time to talk to you. You know, there's new music that by the time people see this, people will very much be able to hear. Before we get into that, I want to catch up on a couple little things. Firstly, something I've been asking everyone about recently, getting back into live shows. I know you guys have been able to do a couple of festivals and all that kind of thing. I would imagine, like all other bands, you've been so desperate to get back in front of the fans again, right?
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting to get back on stage. We did Riot Fest in Chicago, and we have some shows lined up. We're going on tour in Canada with The Offspring in February. And then we have some more that I can't talk about yet, but that are lined up after that. So we got, lots of shows. I think what's really exciting, what I really enjoyed about doing Riot Fest in Chicago is seeing how people are so excited. You know, we all love live concert. We all love to see them, and fans love it. And I know a lot of people, it's really kind of like, it's a big passion for them to go to see live shows. And when that's taken away from you for such a long time, it's amazing the feeling you get when you get back. You're like, oh my God, it's like what that famous, was it Poison song? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. I don't know. I forget if it's Poison, but anyways, it's an 80s song. And it really is like incredible when you get to experience it again. You're like, man, I really missed being on stage. I missed that whole energy. So I'm very excited.
Oh, I'll bet. No, it must be so great to be back there. And were you like one of the many other bands I've spoken to where it took a minute to blow those cobwebs away? Or how were rehearsals? Did it come straight back at Riot Fest or not?
It was a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, I've always said this about being in a band because, you know, you sort of have a persona when you're on stage. You're not exactly who you are when you're hanging out with your family is who you are on stage. You know, you get a bigger persona, your ego blows up and you become this rock star. And if you don't exercise that muscle of being that other person, it gets like very foreign. So, you know, I'm at home. I take my kids to school every day. I make them, you know, their lunches and pack their things. And we go and, you know, I hang out with my friends. I play some golf. I do some music in the studio. And I kind of forget who Pierre from Simple Plan is. And that character gets like deeper in my soul. And when I was about to hit the stage at Riot Fest, I was like, oh shit, you know, does it still exist? My alter ego, is he still there, you know? And you get on stage and the first songs, you're like, this feels kind of weird. Then after like a half a song, you're like, oh yeah, I'm back into it. So it comes back pretty quickly, but I suffer sometimes from a little anxiety. And before stage, I'm like, everyone's like, all right, you got your mic, you're good to go. I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. I can't right now. I can't. Just get a little nervous. But yeah, once we played a song and the crowd was into it, it all came back.
Comes flooding back. Glad to hear it, man. Very, very glad to hear it. Well, let's get into this kind of exciting stuff that you've been working on over this last year or so. The first single, like I say, by the time people see this, it'll be out there. It's called The Antidote. Very, very quintessential, you guys. Exactly what I want from you guys. Exactly what I expect from you guys. Very, very solid. Tell me a little bit, I guess, about where this particular track came from. Was this one worked from home primarily, I take it?
Yeah, so all the songs, I mean, I think, except for one, all the songs were written either here in this room at my house or in Chuck's little studio room he has at his house. And this was a song that we brought in our friend Andrew Goldstein, I believe. Yes, we brought Andrew Goldstein, who's written lots of stuff with All Time Low. He's written some stuff with like so many amazing names. He's written with I think like Young Blood. I think he's written with I don't want to misspeak here, but he's written with a lot of amazing people. He's been a friend of ours for years. We met him years and years ago when he used to work with another writer. Anyways, long story. We wrote together. I believe it was at Chuck's house, and Chuck, you know, usually comes up with like a bunch of words and like a bunch of lyrics, and we put them on a board. And I remember one of them was The Antidote, and I was like, that's kind of cool. So together we kind of like figured out what could be the antidote. And this was pre-COVID, right? So it sounds like it might be about COVID, but it's not. We just figured, you know, everybody in life, or hopefully everyone in life, has something, whether it's a hobby or a person or maybe a thing or an activity that really is the antidote for you when things are difficult, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling like you're not good enough, when you're feeling like the walls are caving in, as the lyrics go. There's something that can help you pull through, and that's the antidote. And we wanted to keep it not too specific so that people could really see themselves in the song. For me, I think about my wife, my family, my fans, the band, all that stuff is what keeps me going and what keeps me inspired. And when I feel like, oh my God, who am I? What am I doing? I think about those things and it brings me back. So, with this record is very, as you said, quintessential Simple Plan. After being together for all these years and having a little more maturity and experience, we've come to the realization that having developed a sound and developed a style is such an amazing thing. And I understand why fans want to hear what you do best, so, and it's nice because after all these years, finally pop punk has kind of come back in the mainstream. You got like people like Willow, you got Jaden, you got Machine Gun Kelly, you got so many people that are doing like pop punk. So it's cool to be able to just be ourselves and not worry about following another trend,
I mean, you're very much the forebearers of that. It's nice to see. I mean, we've talked about it before, but like, I'm just a kid blowing up on TikTok and everything. It's no coincidence that the scene is kind of back in that bigger way, which is really, really nice to see. And I'm glad you mentioned as well about the Antidote with that kind of lyrical content, because it's something I'm finding with so many new releases at the minute. No one seems to want to write like the pandemic record, and why should they? We're all sick of it at this point. But it's interesting how it flows into content in different ways. I feel like you say, these lyrics are so hopeful, and it's kind of nice to see artists like yourself really tap into that side of what you do. I mean, did you feel like it must have affected what you've been writing, at least to an extent, even if it's just in the case of, I want to write something really hopeful and really positive right now?
Yeah, well, actually, all of this, we've had this record since right before the pandemic. So the record was finished. Yeah, we put on the final touches of the production like in March of 2020, right when it was happening. The guys were in LA and we're like, shit, we got to leave. This is like getting crazy. And we had to cancel some shows that were coming up after that. So that's what I mean. Like even the lyrics, it was all pre-pandemic. I really, it's bizarre. And there's another song on the album that I don't know that I'm not at liberty to tell the title yet, but there's a song on the album that really feels like it really is about the pandemic. And it's bizarre to think that it was written like a year before that. But yeah, I think that when I think about what our band is and what our style is and what we've created, I think a lot of it is talking about struggling, talking about having a rough time, and then looking at it with some hopeful, with a hopeful outlook, and that's a lot of like where we started as a band. And I feel like because when you're struggling, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you feel like you're not good enough, I feel that music can be there for you. And that's the kind of songs that I like. And it really has kind of permeated into like what Simple Plan sounds like from the beginning, from I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare, but it still has some hope to it. And you have Welcome to My Life that has some hope to it, like all those songs. So yeah, this is exactly what that is. And people sometimes ask like, why do you guys always write about that? And I'm like, I feel like that's when I want to sing a song, when things are going, when things are going south, or when you're in love. So there's some love songs and there's some, some struggle songs.
A little bit of both is never a bad thing. Have a little bit of both in there. And, we keep kind of dancing around it, but it is clear there is an album. There is an album on the way. I'm not sure how much we can talk about, how much you want to talk about, but clearly this is not a one-off here. You have been working on a fuller record.
Yes.
And, like I say, is this single, I guess, is this the full indication of how we're sounding, or what kind of stuff are you actually playing around with this time? Clearly been sitting with it for a while as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's I would say the Antidote is a good indication. Obviously there's a few songs that are a little different, but mostly I would say this album is it's more rock. It reminds me of like Still Not Getting Any, 2004-ish Simple Plan. I love the sound. I'm one of the producers on the album. Because I've always been producing these demos. I basically Chuck and I write everything, and I demo out everything. So I figure out all the arrangements and all the parts. And over the years, I've been better and better at actually recording. So we brought in a friend of ours, Jay Van Poederoyen, who's short name JVP, who produced. He was an engineer on our fourth album, and him and I kind of co-produced this record together. And yeah, I just love the sound of it. Really heavy rock. We have a couple of songs, I would say 2 songs that are more on the pop kind of crossover side, but everything else is just like straight up pop punk. So I think the fans who are, big fans of Simple Plan will absolutely be stoked to hear this.
Yeah, what a great moment, like we've been saying as well, to put out a straight up pop punk record, because it does feel like there's a bit of a moment in that genre happening at the minute, and it's really, really
Yep.
exciting to see you guys be a part of it. I mentioned, of course, the resurgence of I'm Just a Kid that has happened on social media and everything. But something I noticed that I really want to pick your brain about next year, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, are we looking at 20 years of No Pads, No Helmets? I mean, that's happening, isn't it?
Yes, next
My
year it
word.
will mark the 20 years after our first album came out, which is it's pretty crazy. I mean, um, I just can't believe that we're still here. We're still making music, and I feel like, and also time has gone by like this. I feel like we just started yesterday. But yeah, 20 years. So that's going to be a huge one. I think we're definitely going to be doing some 20th anniversary stuff regarding that. It's the record that really put us on the scene and put us on the map. Songs like I'm Just a Kid, Addicted, Perfect. So definitely I'd do anything. But it's crazy to think that we're still here. I feel like, it's very cliche, but as you get older, time goes by faster and faster and faster. Now that I'm a father, I have two kids. My daughter's turned 10 years old. I can't believe how fast time is going by, but yeah, 20 years. So very exciting.
Hey, it's really exciting, man. Congratulations on that milestone that's kind of just around the corner. And something I like to ask bands when we hit these milestones is really, I mean, it's obvious what's changed for the band, right? We can see how much you've grown, we can see how much things have evolved and that success you guys have had. I'm always really interested in what stayed the same. Like, is there anything about the writing process, the recording process, or really just how you produce an album, I suppose, that you can point to from back then that still applies at this new
Hmm.
Simple Plan record that's to come?
I would say so many things have stayed the same. I think it would be almost easier to find the things that have actually changed because I feel like again, about getting older, and I hate focusing on that and putting my age out there, but like, I feel like, my grandmother used to say this, my dad says this now, like, I still feel like I'm the same kid. I don't feel like, obviously I have some experience and I know a little bit more about certain subjects and I'm better at recording and maybe songwriting, but I feel like the same person because I am the same person. And I still, when we write songs, I still get the same insecurities. We still go through the same kind of process. Chuck and I get together, we hash out these concepts and stuff. I make the demos. I've gotten better at that. My first demo sounded like crap. Now they're sounding much closer to the record, which is why I'm co-producing. But yeah, a lot of who we are has stayed the same. We always feel like the new kids on the block, no pun intended with the other band, but we still feel like those little underdogs that have to fight to get a spot. And now it's funny because a lot of people who are coming out now are like telling us how they grew up listening to our band, and it just feels so bizarre because I feel like I'm still that young band, but clearly, look at these. I'm not the young band anymore.
Dude, I'm right there with you. Don't you worry.
I know,
That's all
it's
good.
crazy.
That's all good. A couple other things I wanted to mention, actually. And speaking of looking back, it was really nice to see just a little treat for the fans. What's New Scooby Doo finally getting on streaming? That's just a lovely little nod to the past there, which I really liked. It must be kind of. I don't know. It's just a lovely thing, I suppose. We talk about this new generation of fans, but it must be kind of strange but lovely to know that a lot of kids, that will have been the first time they heard you guys as a band, right?
100%. And it's something that we done, we did a long time ago. And at the time, we didn't really focus that much on it. We kind of did it, and it was a cool thing that we were part of it. And as the years started going by, we started getting more people at shows being like, play What's New Scooby Doo. And even now more than ever, because the fan base that might have been 5 to 10 to 15 or to 12 years old back then, they're now in their 20s, they're now in their 30s, and they're just, to hear that song is just, it's awesome. So it's kind of become more and more popular with the years, and it's super exciting for us. I love playing that song, and I love being able to embrace those things. And same thing with I'm Just a Kid TikTok challenge. Like, it's cool now that we have certain things that some people know us as that band, like, oh, you're the I'm Just a Kid band, you're that challenge band, oh, you're the What's New Scooby Doo band. And maybe the younger me might have been like a little bit like, well, we're more than that. But now I see it like as an opportunity to be like, yes, we are that. Check out what else we got, So it's because some people, like as you said, discovered us by those things, and maybe they go through the discography and they're like, oh my God, I like this band. So we totally embrace it. It's awesome.
Oh, you've got to embrace it, man, because it's nothing if not an opportunity to find the next audience and the next generation. It's lovely. It's something we've talked about before, but the fact that like you guys always played those gigs at Disney World, which I'm always a big fan of. I just absolutely love that. Why not take that opportunity to play for a younger audience that are just getting into their own music for the first time, right?
Totally. And it's funny, we have a lot of fans that come to those shows. We haven't done it because of the pandemic, but hopefully, I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but I would love to do that gig again. For my own personal reasons, I love going to Disney World. And also, I've got kids now that are just the right age, and we get to get the VIP treatment. So we get to go backstage, zip in, cut in line. There you go, kids. So it's amazing.
The dream gig. What more could you possibly want, right?
It really
there, man.
is.
It's all good. Couple more for you, man, before I let you go. We mentioned the tour with the Offspring. That's really, really exciting out in Canada, right? That's so good. I mean, you guys must have crossed paths a fair few times over the years, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, we played quite a few shows together. I think when they were on Warp that one time, we saw them there. We did some festivals together. We played a show in France together, lots of shows together. We didn't really get to hang out that much in those shows because it's just the way it is. So I'm super excited to spend more time with those guys. We've actually spent some time doing some promotional material in the last few weeks, and they are so nice. I had never really, I'd spoken to Noodles a bunch of times, but I'd never really hung out with Dexter. And, sometimes when you get the impression of a lead singer that they might be like, they're kind of standoffish because they get the most attention, and I'm like, I'm not sure how cool Dexter's going to be. So we went down to Huntington a couple weeks ago to shoot some stuff with them. And he's so sweet. They're so nice. They're such nice guys. They've been around for so long. I mean, I grew up, snowboarding, skateboarding, and all the snowboard videos always had back in the day, these songs from The Offspring from the first album, Ignition, or I think it's their first album. I was just a huge fan of that band, that whole record. Sessions, just so great. So to be able to go on tour with them and spend all this time together and be backstage together and become friends, I wish I could go back and tell my 14-year-old me, like you don't understand. You guys, they're going to know who you are. You guys are going to hang out. You're going to have some beers together. It's going to be awesome. So I'm very, very excited for the tour. I mean, a set list from The Offspring is like a greatest hits every time. So it's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, you can't lose. You can't lose with those guys. Absolutely amazing. And then the other kind of collaboration recently I did want to briefly mention, guys, you obviously know very, very well as well. This TikTok thing you did with Papa Roach, that's such a fun idea, man. I've seen this happen in hip hop so many times with like the kind of Versus series and everything. It's such a nice idea to kind of bring that into our world a little bit. How did that kind of thing come about?
So flattering. The Papa Roach guys are very big on TikTok. They do a lot of TikTok stuff. And I guess they were talking with the TikTok people and they were saying we should do something, some sort of a promoted event. And they came up with the idea of doing the whole hit list with the pieces of songs. And I guess they were asked, what band would you want to do this? What band would you want to do this? That's a relevant band that's, long enough that they have a bunch of hits that you guys get along with. And they actually chose us. So I was so flattered. We've crossed paths many, many times. A lot of our European festivals we played together. And actually, in the early beginning of our band, when we went to Germany for the second or third time, we were still kind of like not quite super successful yet. And they were kind of blowing up. They already had the Cut My Life into Pieces song, all that stuff. We ended up at the same restaurant. And I think it was a Thai restaurant. And they were there. We introduced ourselves. We spent the whole night together. We ordered a massive bowl of Mai Tai with like 8 straws and we drank, we got wasted. We had a great time. We had both just showed up for the beginning of our tours. And so we really got to know each other early on and remained friends for all this time. And I was just so honored when the guys said like, hey, they want to do it with you guys. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So we did it and it was great. They're, amazing people. Jacoby is one of the best frontmans I've ever seen. Whenever I see him live, the energy is just incredible. The guy is just off the chain and the band is so tight, such cool guys. And actually their drummer, so they had the original drummer that I forget why left the band or quit or something. He was replaced by a guy called Tony Palermo. And Tony was the original drummer from the band called 10 Foot Pole, which when I was like 15, 16, was crazy about. And on my first tour, with my original band Reset with Chuck, we toured across Canada with 10 Foot Pole, and Tony was the drummer. So I've known Tony since I'm 16 years old. We were like little kids on tour, and he was the older band. So anyways, long friendship with those guys. I love them. It was so fun to do that whole thing, the hit list on TikTok. And like, again, as I said, I was so flattered that they'd actually chosen to do it with us. So it was very, very cool.
Man, such a lovely thing. I love those little full circle moments like that as well. It's so nice to see when those things kind of happen. Well, Pierre, I mean, it's always really, really great to chat to you, man. Congrats again on the single. Like I said, it's so quintessential Simple Plan the best possible way. It's really put a smile on my face listening to it, dude. Can't wait to hear the rest of the record as well. And just take care of yourself, man. Hopefully see you in the UK when when things are a bit more allowed and a bit more stable. Really hope to see you over here at some point as well.
I think we're already making plans for it. So yes, we'll be out there at some point.
Fingers crossed. All right. Take care of yourself until then, man. All right. Pierre.
All right. Have a great one. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, buddy.